Lillirga'dan gece geçtim, suyundan içtim. Badem gözlü bir yar gördüm, kendimden geçtim. Sensin benim canım, tatlı sevgilim. Sensin benim canım, tatlı sevgilim. Sen gönlümde açan festikan çiçeğim. Sen gönlümde açan festikan çiçeğim. Birilerine bakar bakar dururum. İnce giymiş üstüne gün gün o güleri savururum. Birilerine bakar bakar dururum. İnce giymiş üstüne gün gün o güleri savururum. Berberdik yarı açmadım. Berberdik yarı açmadım. Ayna sıra biraz açmadım. Ayna sıra biraz açmadım. Limos'un yolları, daracık sokakları, dalgalı deniz gibi o güzelim saçları. Dilleri destan oldu benim hallerim. Oy lefkelim lefkelim. Aşkından oldum deli. Kahve içtim telbiri, aklımdan ettin beni. Çok uzaklardan geldim, bir kez göreyim seni. Çok uzaklardan geldim, bir kez göreyim seni. Portakal atışalım, beraber kapışalım. Portakal atışalım, beraber kapışalım. Sen oradan gel, ben buradan, Kıbrıs'ta buluşalım. Sen oradan gel, ben buradan, Kıbrıs'ta buluşalım. Ata binesim geldi, çaydan içesim geldi. Kara gözlü yarimi şimdi göresim geldi. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım.
Hello everybody. Hoş bulduk kardeşim. How are you?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Does my camera look all right? I feel like I'm fizzing a little bit.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Could we get some thumbs up, please, in the comments? Hope all the sound is okay and you can hear us all loud and clear. First of all, bayramın kutlu olsun kardeşim.
Thank you very much, and bayramın kutlu olsun sen de.
Thank you, and happy bayram to everyone.
I want to say something, Serkan. Thank you, man, for the bayram special on Sunday.
That was a good one.
Fantastic.
You're welcome.
And Hussein, man, that was fantastic, and we look forward to the next one.
We'll get a poll going. See if people want a next one. If we get a poll going, maybe next week. If people want it, we'll do it 100%. We're getting loads of comments.
I'm sure after the 4 hours, bro.
Oh, mate, they nearly chucked us at the park.
You had some strong people in there.
It was good. Just two mates with me, two of my good friends, like my brothers. We just got together, done music, and it was really good. We got so much good feedback. We're really proud, and we're proud that we managed to give it to all the Turkish community out there, and everyone enjoyed it. And we enjoyed it as much as you guys did, really. So yeah. Well, tonight's Guzel Magazine show is a bit different. I want to say hello to Halil from here. as well. Halil, hope you're good. Hope you have a day off. You enjoy your day off tonight.
He's there.
Enjoy your night. He is watching. Have a day off, Halil. Have it. Well done. So thanks for Halil. Halil got the show ready for us and he made sure everything's working. So big thank you to Halil for doing that. Right. Today's Guzel Magazine show is going to be a property business special. You, especially you, Hassan, as well. You're one of our experts, as well as the host. You're one of the experts as well. And it's just going to be a matter of answering everyone's questions in terms of property. Now that the property market's... Oh, see, we live. Technical error. My microphone dropped. I was dropping the mic. Mic drop. Anyway, we're going to talk about property and we're going to talk about sort of all the businesses, the loans. We're going to touch up on some of the stuff that's happened post the last COVID-19 show. And we've got a very experienced accountant again joining us tonight who's going to answer those questions, as well as loads of property experts and our property lawyer. It's going to be a good show. I can't wait. I've got so many questions. I just wanted to give a disclaimer for everyone that's listening. We're getting the viewers up now. Slowly people are joining. Please share, because what we're going to talk about is very important. Get sharing as much as you can. The disclaimer is, guys, as it was on the last show, is any advice you're given is general advice. It's not based on your personal circumstances. We don't know you personally. We don't know your circumstances. So we can't give you personal advice, but we'll give you general advice from the experts that you can go and speak to your own accountants, your own solicitors, your own estate agents about. So, yeah. But I'm sure Hassan's the business expert as well. Just get in touch with Hassan personally.
Expert, man.
You don't mind, do you?
No, I know what. Listen, I know about my lettings, definitely for sure. But if you do get in contact with either of us, I'm sure we can definitely divert you to any one of our guests today who have kindly taken their time out to come and share their advice with us and share their views with us. So, yeah,
100%.
Should we bring them in?
Yeah, 100%. I just want to say, guys, if you've got questions, please ask them. Please ask your questions. We're not going to assume it's about you. It can be generalized. Just put the questions in the comments so we can answer them for you, because that's what we're here for. So make sure you write loads of questions. And Hassan, over to you, mate.
Okay, guys. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in again. So I'm gonna introduce our guests. I'm gonna bring them in onto the screen, and then we'll do an individual. Bear with me because I have to undo everyone's mic because I've mic blocked everyone.
Halil, come on, man. Come and join us quick.
No, I cannot unmute your guests because they're muted. So, Erad, could you try and unmute your own mic, please?
Yeah, can you hear me?
That's mashallah. And there we go. There we go. Is it off? Everyone, can we hear everybody?
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Perfect. Okay, all right. Hassan, over to you. Let's kick this off. Let's kick it off.
Right. So my name's Hassan Osman. I run a letting agency based in Cambridge called EPS Properties. I'm also one of the admins in TCC UK, so I'm sure you've seen me and heard from me. So yeah, I'll give you the best advice I can. We'll go across to Eran. Will you introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Eray Tezbasha. I'm a mortgage broker. Been doing it for about 5 years now. Own a few properties myself as well, and I'm pretty much into the buying and renting game. So yeah, looking forward to today's show.
Nice.
Brilliant. Seval Abla?
Hi there, my name's Seval Guzel. I'm a chartered accountant. My office is based in Croydon.
Okay.
Chanel?
Hi, I'm Director of Range Homes, Chanel Ali. The company is based in Palmer's Green and it has been running for 12 years. We do sales, lettings and maintenance.
Excellent. And Gündüz Bey.
Hello. Thanks for thanks for having me back. My name's Gündüz. I'm a property solicitor, work in the commercial and residential property department. So I deal with sales acquisitions of residential and commercial property, act for buyers, sellers, landlords and tenants.
Oh mate, brilliant. What a great panel. Like I'm just sitting back here in awe. And I'm just Serkan. I sing karaoke on the weekend.
Sorry.
But we've got loads of comments. People are already writing in, so just make sure you get all your questions out. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to write loads of questions. Have you got something to kick off the show with us, and a topic straight, one we can go straight in with, or do you want me to?
I'd like to start off with, and I think we touched on it briefly. I don't know if we should. We might have to come back to this later on as well, depending on the viewers if they go up again. But property market, I'm really intrigued about the property market. I deal with lettings only, right? So I've got another letting agency and another estate agency that I work alongside with that sells our properties that we need to sell. But I'm more interested in London market at the moment because the London market is different to the Cambridge market. So what are we saying? Like, what's the property market saying at the moment? Is the prices going down? I mean, I heard, and I don't know how true they are, I heard that we're looking at around about 13% downfall, but how true that is, I don't know. Who's up for it?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, Chanel. Yeah, Chanel.
Okay. See, the property market in general over the last 3 years hasn't been great since the Brexit news. That's when the dip, you started to see the dip. I've found pre-Brexit it wasn't great last year, and the property prices generally did drop. I would say about 10%, even more. So January we had a massive leap in the property market. January, February, I would say 90% of the property market was under offer from the last year. So that was really good and positive. Everyone was jumping up and down. I'm sure everyone was busy with his mortgages and everyone was great. Brexit's done. And obviously now we hit COVID. COVID in the media with the property prices, it is exactly right. It's saying 10 to 15%. I would say in London it's about 10% drop. But obviously the government had to open the property market up very quickly. They gave me 1 day's notice to say, you can go and start valuing properties tomorrow, go and open up your office, go and do viewings, valuations, inspections. So I've been basically working throughout non-stop. Have I seen a big price drop? I did see a price drop. Unfortunately, the market's gone crazy again for buyers that wanted to get the prices at the 10%, and because of the bounce back that we hit the property market open so soon, the property market is now back to being busy. So good and bad. Really.
When you say being back to being busy, sorry, Huss, does that mean being back to busy in terms of the prices of sort of creeping up again? That from that 10%, is that gap closed, or when you say being back to busy, it's just lots of more? It's a buyer's market. Is that what you mean?
Well, the inquiries are coming in thick and fast, and the offers are coming in quite quickly. But we're seeing a lot of market activity, so a lot of new instructions. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we've had a lot of probate valuations. So I've become a probate valuation specialist, unfortunately. I've done about 9 probate valuations in 1 week since we've opened. So there is going to be a lot on the market coming up. And yes, it's going to be at that 10% bracket, but I don't see a drop any more than that, put it that way.
Right, interesting.
I think I would agree with Chanel on that one as well, to be honest. Obviously, because I can see the similar activity. You know, COVID kind of dried things up, and now that it's opened up, there is a lot of inquiries coming through. One thing I am finding though is that lenders, obviously if you're buying a residential property, the minimum deposit would be 10%. But a lot of lenders have scrapped that now. So when you're trying to buy a property now, they're asking for more deposit, more 15%. So it's kind of like, yes, there is a lot of activity going on, but the banks are kind of trying to save themselves at the same time by, making sure that the property that's coming through is better security for them with more deposit.
Right, it's interesting. I mean, we're going to definitely come to the whole mortgage lending, finances, and link Ere in with Seval and how it all works at the moment. I know you guys are not probably aware of all the changes because the changes are coming so quickly, but all right, Gunduz Bey, how are you finding the property market at the moment? Just touching on Hassan's question.
Yeah, I agree with Chanel and Ere. There is a lot of activity at the moment, a lot of interest. Whether that interest materialises yet, we're not quite sure. Obviously, instructions for us have died down since this whole COVID thing. Right. Now that the property market is back up and running, there is a lot of interest, and hopefully we'll start getting things back moving. But in terms of prices, I'm not sure what that's done to the market. There are a lot of clients that are interested actually at the moment in auction property, so it's probably a good time now maybe to get a bargain at auction.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of instruction, are you being instructed at the moment? Since the government announced, was it last week, they're going to open the property market? Has your firm and yourself been, busy and instructed?
It's picked up since then. Quite a few instructions have come in. Obviously, it's not like pre-COVID, but it's getting there.
Okay. And Sarah, in terms of landlords that have big portfolios that you may represent, who own companies with loads of properties in it, do you feel like at the moment a lot of people have jumped ship, or are they looking to sell, or how do you see it at the moment in terms of landlords with big companies that you may represent?
Well, obviously, everyone's got a different perception, but the clients that we represent, the ones that are actually managing a large portfolio, have actually looked at this as an opportunity. Like Chanel was saying, if property prices are going down, they're ready to pounce and use this to their advantage. They're cash rich or they're asset rich. They can, they've got plenty of equity there and they're ready to go for it. But what I'd be interested to find out from you is your perception of the commercial property market, as not just the residential, but the commercial too.
Okay, excellent. And I just wanted to say, I forgot to say this and it's my fault. Arkadaşlar, Türkçe sorunuz varsa Türkçe yazıp biz Türkçe yorumlayacağız. Program genellikle İngilizce konuşulacak. Lakin varsa yorumlarınız Türkçe yazıp biz onları çabalayacağız, Türkçe yorumlayalım. Is that okay, guys? What we're going to do with people that may not understand English is good, we will answer their Turkish questions in Turkish. Would that be all right with you guys?
Yeah,
that's my fault.
Fine.
I should have, yeah.
That's fine.
Hassan, anything else you want to go on with that before we go to a few questions?
We've got a few questions in line, so shall I bring them up?
100%, yeah. Let's start with the first one.
Let's start with Hacker.
Buharika, what a name. That's a lovely name. Buharika, kardeşim.
To be fair, Boo got in contact with me. We know, don't we?
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. So it should be an easy one. Good. Another great question. How easy will it be to do a remortgage in the current climate? I think we should go straight to Ere with that one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, because of this whole situation, not much has really changed in the buy-to-let side of things. If you've got a buy-to-let mortgage, it's pretty much down to the value of the property and how much equity you've got in there. In terms of residential, the only way, I mean, it's still perfectly fine to do a remortgage. Nothing's changed, providing your income is still the same. If your income has been affected by COVID-19, then, there may be some issues there with the amount that you can borrow or remortgage through the property.
Okay, so is there anything you can come in on that?
As far as I'm aware, if you're furloughed, you can't apply for a remortgage or a mortgage. Is that correct? Eri, have you found that?
I mean, there is, yeah. I mean, majority of the lenders, it's not as of interest to them. I was speaking to a few lenders the other day, and they're just saying if your employer can provide the letter to say that, you will be going back to full pay, within the next week or so, or whenever it is, then the bank is happy to take that on board and take that into consideration.
Is that with certain lenders, or is that with all lenders you found?
No, that's because every lender has different criteria. So some are happy to do that, and some of them, they're not willing to take that on.
So
guys, go on, Huss, sorry.
Sorry, Huss. So I just want to ask you, so what are mortgage rates sitting like at the moment? Have mortgage rates rised?
No, they haven't. The mortgage rates are quite good at the moment, actually. I mean, the Bank of England is at a very, very low rate. It's at 0.25%. So the actual lender rates are very good as well. Obviously, it varies for different scenarios and different circumstances. Not everyone is entitled to the same interest rate.
Right. Yeah, of course. Depending on your condition, like credit rating, etc., etc.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and we're finding quite a lot of our clients are actually remortgaging at the moment because the rates are so low. This is a perfect opportunity for them to lower their mortgage payments.
When you say your clients, so the clients that are buying through yourselves,
So a remortgage would apply if you already own the property, but you either want to switch products with the same lender or go to another mortgage company. But because the rates are lower now, it's a perfect time for them to remortgage.
Yeah, but Sevalak makes a really good point. Have you come across those sort of boundaries where in terms of people on furlough to have that sort of obstacle in terms of remortgaging? Have you come across that?
Well, we only get the instruction when it comes to us after they've made the application. So that would be something that Eray would sort out. He would sort out the actual mortgage offer, but it will come to us once that's done.
All right. Well, I hope that answers Borhadika's question. If it hasn't and you want to clarify anything, please just get loads and loads of questions down and we'll answer them for you.
Okay,
should we go on to the next one, Hus?
Yes.
Yeah. Aqua Hair Spa. Hello, Aqua Hair Spa. Is that the one in South London? Aqua, I think. I'm not sure. Hi, guys. Any changes on stamp duty on buying a second property? I think that's a Gunda's question. Am I wrong? All right. Is it?
Yeah, I can answer that. At the moment, there's no changes. The higher rates still apply, but there are discussion of stamp duty reform. But at the moment, the position remains the same. If you are buying a second property, there is a 3% surcharge of what you wouldn't have paid if you only owned one residential property.
Okay. All right. I hope that answers the question. Anyone want to come in on that with regards to stamp duty? No? Okay.
Unfortunately,
right, moving on to the next one. There's a few comments in between. Okay. There's a few comments in between I'm going to read just to make sure that everyone's being read out. So Emin Osman's watching and she says, have a great show, guys. Chanel's also says, hayırlı yayınlar size. Barış Güven, iyi yayınlar. Halil Ibrahim, admin and the creator of the group, says good luck. Sherif Agul, Sherif Atla gave some really great advice on the last show. And Sherif Atla, if you have any questions or you want to give him any more advice, feel free to write in the comments. I don't want to miss anyone. We've got one from Cyprus. Anlamadığım için kazın, eminim çok güzel bir grup tartışması. Ben de katılırım. Vallahi çok güzel bir tartışmadır. Ben anlatırım sana. Kıbrıs'a selamlar Aysergi'ye buradan. Bayram Çabuk kardeşimiz. Hayırlı yayınlar arkadaşlar. Teşekkürler. Hello Bayram. And the next question from Mustafa Cingöz. So we're going to probably we'll go to Sevalak'la first on this answer and then straight to Eray, I think. Selamlar, iyi yayınlar. Benim sorum, oğlum ev almak ister. Yılı geliri 25 ve 30 bin arası. Yalnız bir sorunu var. Kredi skoru iyi değil. Ne yapmak gerekir? Lütfen yardımcı olur musunuz? Teşekkürler. Mustafa Cingöz'den. Sevalak'la, what would you advise?
I mean, obviously, Eray doing mortgages will be in a better position to reply, but if he's got credit score issues, then there are lenders out there that will lend to him, but it may not be your kind of main high street. He might have to go second tier. So lenders that you and I would probably not know about, but Eray would definitely know about. The interest might be slightly higher. And the 25 to 30K, again, they're going to be looking at pay slips to prove that, if he's only just started working, it might be difficult. If he's got 3 to 6 months pay slips behind him, that will be far better for him. And then depending on the lender, between 4 and 5 times his salary is what he'll be able to borrow.
Okay, and just before I go to Eray, in terms of credit score, in terms of that particular part of the question, how would you, what would you advise someone to get their credit score up? What would be the best course of action for that?
They really need to look into why their credit score is bad. So obviously, if they sign up to some of these reputable companies like Experian or Equifax, there's so many out there. Initially, they can apply for a membership and it kicks in after 30 days. So if they can sign up, they get their free report within about a week to 10 days. If everything looks okay there, then they can probably discontinue the membership. If they want to continue with it, it's roughly about £12 to £15 a month. And then you're notified every time there's a change in your credit score rating, or even for things like you might not be aware that you've had identity fraud, which is affecting your credit score. So I think it's very important to understand what's affected the credit score, and whether it's something that is about to kind of go off the radar. So if it's been several years, it will disappear. If it's something new, then seeing if it's maybe even a misunderstanding with like your electricity board or phone bill or something that you can get rectified.
So that's great advice. And Edi, what would you advise someone who is on between 25, 30K a year, who may have a bad credit score? What sort of advice would you give someone like that?
To be honest, I think Sevilla answered that perfectly. I would have said the exact same thing as her. It's just a matter of looking at your credit, opening a credit file with Experian, Equifax, and just seeing what is the issue there. Again, even if it could be a default, it could be you're not on the electoral roll, it could be missed payments, it could be anything large or small. But like Sevilla said, there are lenders out there that will lend if you have bad credit. It just means that you might not be entitled to the best rate out there. You might be getting, a subprime rate or a higher rate from a different lender.
Okay.
One thing I will say, coming back to the credit score thing, what we've found in the past with a couple of clients is they think they've got a brilliant credit score because they're keeping up with everything. They've never defaulted or had a check bounce, etc. And then it comes back with a slightly kind of tarnished negative credit report. And you might find it's something really silly. For example, they might just have too many little loans. Like they might have a car loan and loan to pay back, say, installments on some kitchen equipment they bought from Currys or something like that. And when you go to a lender, there's certain tests they do. And as soon as it's like it doesn't fit in with their kind of model that they've got, these model calculations, they'll throw it out. And it just turns out to be something silly, like there's still £300 outstanding to Dixon's or somewhere like that. And if you'd known about it, you'd be like, oh, I'll just pay that off. I don't want something like that affecting my credit score. So that's why it's so important to look into it, not panic at first, because it could be something that is so easily rectified.
Right. And a normal way to get a credit score up for someone that doesn't have any, as you said, like any silliness on their name where like a bill's not being paid. Would you say a tactic is sort of people recommend where you can get a credit card out to show banks and show people that you are not defaulting on payments? And is that good advice, would you say?
Well, it's strange because it seems like contrary to what we should be saying, but credit score is adversely affected if they can't find any trace of your kind of spending history. So just like Edi said, the first thing is get on the electoral roll. Second thing is if you haven't ever had a credit card or you haven't got like a phone contract or something like that, you just won't appear on any of their searches. And the second they can't find you, you're deemed to be bad credit, rather than it might be a case that you've never wanted a credit card. You've always wanted to pay as you go and not build up any debt. And actually, that doesn't work in your favor, in every scenario. So sometimes a little bit of debt is a good thing.
Yeah. That's
crazy,
great advice. Great advice, guys. Yeah, I agree with Huss. Really crazy. It's a catch-22, isn't it? That's similar like I said. Yeah, Eray, great advice. Thank you guys. And Mustafa Cingöz, anlamadıysan başka yorum yazabilirsin. Biz seni gene anlatırız. Because I know you wrote in Turkish, but it doesn't matter. We'll move on. Anyone want to come in anywhere with that, or do you go to the next question?
I think just a lot of what people do is spend on their credit card and then clear it within the same month. Obviously, I know that the credit reports tell you that the more, if for example, if you've got £15,000 credit limit, you shouldn't ever really be reached to your max, because that affects your credit score. So I've realized that happening. But yeah, just be careful. Make sure you've got the Experian credit report like logged in on. You pay like £10 a month, and you could, anytime there's a search on your name, it will actually email you and say your credit score has gone down for a certain reason. And because there's a lot of identity fraud going on at the moment, so people need to be careful of that, especially because it can affect you massively. I've seen that happen in the past.
Great advice, And if you want to come in with Gündüz on
that one, just agree with everything.
Yeah, it's really great advice. I hope that answers your question. for your son. Should I move on to the next one, Hassan? I know we got a comment from.
I've got someone.
Oh.
Someone has sent a message through as a post through TCC UK page, and Emin Osman, she just sent it to
Hello,
me.
Emin
So
Abba.
I thought we'll ask this, right? This is from Suzanne Nuri Nixon. We want you to get a BTL mortgage, a buy-to-let mortgage, on a property in Norwich, but instead of a mortgage company sending someone to value the property, they did it on a desktop valuation, which meant we needed a bigger mortgage deposit. Has the lockdown eased enough for valuers now to visit properties in person? That's our question.
Good question.
Yes, the guidance that I spoke about last week has essentially opened up the property market, which allows valuers now to attend properties, but they've got to follow certain rules. But what they've done in your situation is, because of this lockdown, they've done a desktop valuation, which means that they've not attended the property, but done their research maybe online, looked at other properties within the area to ascertain a valuation. I don't know if it's necessarily come back lower because of that. It could have done, and it might have come back higher if somebody physically attended the property. But now a lot more valuations can take place, and you may want to ask somebody else to come, another independent valuer, to actually come and visit. You may have the option to ask an independent valuer to come out and actually visit the property, rather than doing a desktop valuation, if you disagree with that.
The desktop
advice,
valuation usually come in cheaper or higher? Or lower or higher?
Sorry, say that again.
I mean,
Desktop valuations, do they come in higher or lower usually?
Chanel, you can answer that.
I've had a lot of calls coming from, the problem we've had again during the COVID is that there is no comparables. So when surveyors are actually going to look for comparables, they can't really find any because the market's been shut for the last 3 months. But so this, realistically, no one knows what is the actual price market. So as an estate agent, when I get called for evaluation, I'm going on pre-COVID prices with, like you say, maybe a 10% decrease. But ultimately, it is the surveyor that is going to tell us what is the actual price. So we're still a little bit premature. I would say in the next month, we will probably see what the surveyors are coming back with. But I'm guessing surveyors are going to have the same problems as anyone else. But the desktop valuations, unfortunately, have been coming up a little bit lower, which is why they shouldn't have. I don't think they should have rushed it during the lockdown. I think no one really should have been surveying anything on desktop. But if it's happened, it's happened. You know, there's nothing that you could have done. But they're open now, so maybe just get another. I mean, Eri, what do you think with the desktop?
No, I agree with that. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the applications that I had going through before pre-COVID, they actually got put on hold, and you know, there was none of the valuations were taking place. But like you said, Chanel, and like Gundu said as well, I mean, the desktop valuation is just looking at the current market, and possibly, you know, maybe that lender has already given a mortgage on a property in that area recently, so they'll obviously look at that and the property that is in question, and you know, tie them together. I don't really feel like it makes a difference in terms of how they value the property, to be honest, because they use the same concept in how they're going to value the property.
All right. I hope that answers Suzanne's question. So thanks for Emin Upla for posting that through to you as well. Sherifa Gul has written, Sherif Upla has written, a very good time to fix mortgage rates unless you have a lifetime tracker. Do you guys agree with that as experts?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely a good time to take use of the new interest rates, the low interest rates. And to me, I always recommend people fixing their products, to be honest with you, but for the stability of the monthly payments, you know. But yeah, definitely a good time.
All right, good stuff. And we're moving on to Badish Guven as well. Hello, Badish. Hope you're okay. How easy is it to change from residential mortgage to a buy-to-let mortgage?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. However, the lender in most cases will want to know where you're moving to. So obviously, this is your residential, this is where you live. If you want to change this to a buy-to-let property, where are you planning on living? Because if you have a buy-to-let, you're not meant to be living in it.
exactly.
Are
Unless
they
you
now
get-
called Let to Buy, Ere?
Yes, let to buy. Yeah, exactly.
So what, they just,
What, they've
Yeah, I mean,
just-
I'm actually doing one at the moment where I'm in a residential mortgage at the moment, and I'm buying something else as a residential. So what the NatWest have said is that I can just do a right to let application until my term finishes. So I've just written to NatWest and said,
Yeah.
I'm going to be moving into another residential. Can you then just keep it the same until the mortgage is finished? So
Yeah.
until the end of the term, which saves me obviously paying a fine midway through my fixed term of 2 years. So you can speak to the lender, I guess.
off the top, so off that, just so I can understand it properly, is so you're buying another residential property. The property you're currently living in, you're going to keep it as a residential mortgage, but you're now allowed to rent that property out until the end of the term, and then you can turn it into a let to buy.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, right. Yeah.
Like saying, you just apply for consent to let. So with the bank's permission, they're allowing you to rent the property out. But if you was just doing, a straight swap, you wanted to change yours to a buy to let and literally move into the residential, and you didn't have no, penalty issues, then it'll be a let to buy application, and the lender would want to see your new property that you're purchasing.
Yeah.
Right. Great advice, guys. So I hope that answers your question, Badush. Going on to Safet has written, just join the back end of this. You have a circumstance where you have a situation where you may have something on your credit score that affects you adversely. For example, let's say your pay is changed for the short period. You can put something called a notice of correction on your file. Is that in terms of the credit score we were talking about earlier? Would that be in relation to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. Thank you for your input, Safet. I appreciate that. Bohadik has written mortgage. Brokers can do it as part of an application and could potentially see the issue. Yeah. Okay. Right, next one. Safet said, essentially all mortgage companies do an automatic credit check, but with a notice of correction. It means the bank has to manually read what your notice is meaning. A human can make a decision. Okay. That's back to Mustafa Jingazi's question, isn't it? So that's for that. Thank you very much. Edim Metos watching, says very informative. Thank you very much, Edim Abi, and thanks for everything you're doing. Edim Abi, just if you don't know, Hassan probably knows a lot better than I do. But from what I see, he runs the Turkish Cypriot community in Chanel knows actually. Sorry, Chanel, do you want to say what you've been doing with Edim? I think it's really important you get that out there.
Oh gosh, what Erim's done. It's nearly 9 weeks now from the beginning of COVID. With the TCCA in Haringey, that's where they're based. They obviously people needed help, and it probably started as such a small thing, and now they're basically feeding like over 1,000 homes a week. Not just homes, they're going to care homes, cooked meals. You've got the mosque involved. We're going to like hospitals, Great Ormond Street. It is just every single day. It's just growing and growing. With the Erim's organised like befriending. So everyone from the community have got like emergency line they can call. He's now creating a property line for me. So anyone with like issues where they can't get through to their landlords, what advice I can give to help them out. And do you know what? It's just been, like I said earlier before when we're backstage, that it's just amazing to see what the community, Turkish Cypriot community have done during this lockdown, and how far we can come as a community together when we're doing stuff together. And I think that's really important. I feel like over the last, I don't know, I've been in business for 12 years, but I don't feel like we've had a lot of support with each other. I feel like everyone's just got on with it and haven't been supporting one another. And I think that the help that they've done, Erim's done with feeding the vulnerable, is just been so beautiful for the community to see. And the fact that it just shows how much people do need help out there. And even shows like this, where information, people don't know what they don't know. They've got nowhere to go to. And it's just amazing that we've got this now. And Erim Abi is obviously they're blowing over there. And I'm just so proud to see what he's doing. It's great.
Erim Abi, sorry, Huss.
No, you can finish, bro. Sorry.
No, go. Because I can't hear you properly, so I keep talking over you.
Actually, I met Erim Abi today, actually, for the first time on a video call, right? And the stuff that him and his team and everyone, including you, Chanel, because I did see you was out there delivering food. Yeah. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I wish I lived closer. I know everyone says I wish I lived closer, so I'd definitely dip in and help. But honestly, I applaud all of you for a fantastic thing you're all doing. And literally, and
I
that's just
applaud
from me,
you.
that's from all the admins in TCC UK, because we're
100%.
forever talking about how amazing you guys do. So
Yeah,
much
thank
love
you.
from us all, definitely. And also, as you all know, if there's anything that the TCC UK page can do to help, you just get in touch with one of us, and we're here to help and support anybody.
Yeah.
Just so you all know, everyone.
You took the words out of my mouth, mate. So
I wanted to be
I don't always, mate. Two great minds. Well done, well said, and thank you for all you do. Anyone, thank you. It's really good stuff. Tuned Ahmed has written, "What if you have a default? What do you do?" I think that's back to the credit score again. As Cyril said, and LA and the expert said, you can sort of contact the companies that you may find out what the default is first, and then see if you can rectify it. Is that the right advice?
Yeah, I mean, each case, you know.
Yeah, I mean, once you've had a look at that, you know, there is, like we said already, there is lenders that will accept you still.
Okay. And Sherifa says bad credit stays on. She's gonna kill me for calling her Upla all the time. I know she will. Sherifa says bad credit stays on her file for 6 years. Is that true? What if it's a really bad credit, in terms of like it's not a default, it's like a fraud claim or whatever? Would that? I'm sure that will stay on. Would that stay on for a longer period?
It depends if it's gone criminal, I guess. You know, if it's like an investigation, but. I think generally bad credit is, 5 to 6 years, like Sherifa says. Anything more serious than just a bit of bad credit, if it's gone more down the fraud criminal route, probably longer.
I agree. I just think this staying on your file for a amount of years is not rubbish, but I just don't believe it. I think there's ways and means that it will come up somehow. It will always be on a system somewhere. But thank you, Sherifa. Good for that. 7 up is spot on and well said from Sherif Agul. Thank you. Selena member says great advice. Tuned Ahmed agreed, says yes. Mustafa Jinga says çok teşekkür ederim. So I think he's happy with the answer, guys. Thank you very much. Seval Guriel, thank you for some great info from Ems. Thank you very much. Hati Osman, can Hassan turn his mic up, please?
That's what someone else just said to me. Can you not hear me properly?
Turn it up. Maybe talk like this. You know the microphone on your headphones. Are you using the headphones or are you using the laptop?
I've got myself a mic.
That's better. Hold it like that. Don't move. Yeah.
Okay, is that better, guys? Give us a little comment to say it's all right.
Yeah, much better. I can hear it. Mary Ahmed says hello. Hello, Mary Ahmed. Sherif Fegu says desktop valuations are more conservative, unfortunately. Thank you very much. Safet says credit checks are updated every 24 hours. Therefore, if you carry out one credit check after another every day, you will be adversely affected. If you or your broker know what you're doing, then it's better to do as many credit applications as you want within one 24-hour period. That will not affect the same as doing checks every day. Thank you so much. And Suzanne says thank you, by the way, for answering that question, guys. As you can see on your screens. Interesting news from Borhari Harika says in relation to buy switches. So Delia, should we go to Delia Rashid? She said, are properties valued based on rental returns generally? Chanel?
No, unfortunately not. To be honest with you, properties are obviously valued on comparables. So as an agent, what we'll do is we'll look at the market and see what's sold in your area, and then we'll go a bit more wider than that to say what's under offer, what's coming on the market, and then we look at condition. It doesn't ever really go on what value you can get on a rental, because we could be selling to someone that's going to buy to live in. So we don't value it on rental, unfortunately. But with rental, if you are getting a buy-to-let mortgage, which I'm sure everyone's going to go to now, and for example, I'm going to say to you, okay, they always ask me on the viewing, what is this property worth for rent? I could say, because I've got so many different ways of getting the property values up, especially if you turn a property to HMO, which they love doing in London now, getting licenses, doing developments and stuff like that, so you can redevelop your property. So even if you know you're going to get £3,000 for a property a month, and that's quite a lot, but say £2,000 a month, the surveyor can actually come in and say, do you know what? That it's not worth that. It's going to be worth £1,400 a month. So they'll actually only lend you on what the surveyor thinks the property is going to be worth to let as it is. So if the property is in a bit of a bad condition, it will probably get the lower value on the buy to let. What do you think, Eri?
Yeah, I think it's spot on there. I mean, it's pretty much the same as the valuation of the property, you know. They look at comparables in the market, similar properties, how much they've rented for. And like Chanel said, even if you know yourself that you're possibly going to rent it out room by room and earn more money, the lender's going to look at it as if you're lending it as one unit, as one household, and just base the rental income on that. Yeah,
good advice. I reckon, you know, I mean, what Chanel mentioned earlier was HMO is a house of multiple occupancy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And those you sort of rent it, then I said room by room. Just remember, if you are going to do that, don't just automatically think, guys, jump in if
get
I'm
a planning permission, get a license, please.
Don't. Because you need to get licenses, and you need to make sure that I mean, London is in the Article 4 area. Is that correct, guys? Is that right? So.
Different parts, different parts are under Article 4, but the council have made it a lot easier now to do the applications. They've made it a lot cheaper because there's so many HMOs that are happening illegally, and obviously then you've got to go back to your mortgages are not covered. So when the surveyor goes into the property and they see that you're renting out each rooms, then your mortgage, again, that can have a massive effect on remortgaging, especially.
Yeah, that's very important that you touched on that as well, Chanel. Because there are separate products for HMO mortgages. So it's very
commercial,
important.
Isn't it?
Not necessarily commercial, but it kind of falls into that category a little bit, yeah. But there's certain products where this is where the lender knows how you're renting out the property. So they're basically giving you a product based on how you're doing that, basically, yeah.
Great advice. Anyone want to come in there?
Yeah, going off what Chanel said regarding HMOs. So obviously each council has its own rules, right? I mean, which I find absolutely mad. So in Cambridge, and I don't know if it's the same in London, but in Cambridge, like if you've got a 4-bedroom house and you convert it into a HMO, you don't need a license for it. It's when you have 5 or more that you need to have a license for it. Is that the same for you guys in London?
No, the law changed last June here to say that any more than 2 tenants, you basically need, for more than 3, you need to apply for HMO. And that's even unless you're of the same household, like mother and father and sister. But even if you've got a mother, father, and their boyfriend on the tenancy agreement, that's a HMO. Whether you're renting out room by room.
I'm sorry, I made one. Does it need to be licensed?
Yes, and some areas you need planning permission as well now. Like Haringey Borough, you need planning and a license.
So it needs to be licensed if it's a 3-bedroom house as well, with 3 showers in it.
Yep.
Yeah. See, Cambridge, we're quite lucky at the moment. I don't know if it's because we're a student area, but we have to have 4. It has to be HMO regulation, so you've got to have the fire doors or everything installed, but you don't have to have a license unless you've got 5 or more people in the property.
Right.
Well, you're very, very lucky. Make most of it, I think, while you can before they come up.
Buying
before
Cambridge.
They go to Cambridge.
Yeah, go to Cambridge. Buying Cambridge. All right, great answers, guys. Thank you so much. I'm learning just sitting here as well. DJ Jelin, hello, says, well done, guys. Thanks for doing what you do as well during lockdown. Very, very famous DJ in the Turkish community. Thank you. Alex Umut7 says, great show, guys. Market is booming. Inquiries are up. There you go. As long as the lenders continue to lend, the property market will keep stable. However, if lenders keep restricting loan to value, is that what it means? Then the first owners will be affected in the London market. I'm starting to know the little mnemonics now. Okay, anyone want to come in with that?
I just wanted to touch as well on with Seval, which is quite a lot of what I'm seeing now, and Eri, is the people are buying now in company names, which is quite a big good tax saver. So I don't know if you want to. Anyone
we're gonna
go with that.
Should we cover that now? That was going to be one of the topics later. We can do that. So Seval, over to you in terms of, is it Section 24, the new rules that came in?
I mean, Section 24 is kind of affected by that, but I think what Chanel's asking is why people are veering more towards using a company as their purchasing vehicle rather than buying in their personal name. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I think initially people who did that, it was more if they were commercial landlords, so maybe they happened to fall into that by accident because they had company, they were trading as a, I don't know, like a hairdresser's or whatever, and then the freehold of their business came up for sale, so then they happened to buy the property into the company, and it all kind of just happened as a commercial lend. But now more and more high street lenders are lending to companies, which until about 2-3 years ago, and I will know better, was quite unusual. There were only like 2 or 3 lenders. Now there's quite a few. Their interest rates are not that bad compared to what they used to be. And the more lenders that are coming out there, the more attractive it's becoming in terms of interest as well. But the main tax saving is what I always say to clients is, why do you want to buy as a company? What's your intention for the property? If it's a long-term investment, something that you're thinking of, you know, this is going to be my future pension, let's say. So instead of a pension, I'm going to invest in property. And then when I retire, the rental income from that property is going to be my monthly pension. And then when I get even older and I'm kind of like, you know, getting to the end of my life, this is going to be how I pass my properties on to my children or my grandchildren. Then a limited company is a fantastic vehicle to use to buy property as the tax law stands now. So, you know, 19% corporation tax rate is much lower than a kind of landlord with an extensive portfolio who will very quickly, if he's investing in his own name, jump into the 40 to 45% income tax bracket. It just allows you to make the most of the low corporation tax versus the income tax. If your intention isn't to keep flipping the property, it's a good idea to go limited. It really varies on your situation, but yeah, we're certainly seeing a lot of our clients who don't do this just amateurly. You know, they are kind of leaving their day job and doing a lot of property investment for a living, going down the limited route.
Okay, good advice. Does that answer your question, Chanel?
Yeah, Erai, how easy is it to get the limited company mortgages now?
Yeah, it's very easy. I mean, you can set up a limited company today for property purposes, and you know you can do an application today as well. I mean, and like Sarah said, the interest rate is not very different at all. Very attractive rates, and a lot of lenders are doing it. It is very popular in the market for tax purposes, so it's not difficult at all. And I would advise, if you are in it for the long term, I would advise to buy under a limited company as well.
Yeah, there's so many tax savings if it's a long-term investment, which most people it is, even for property developers, because a lot of people will buy and then sell, and then maybe they'll do that by chance and think, oh, actually, this is quite a good money spinner. Let's do this again and again. Then you're looking at it becoming a trade rather than investment. And once it becomes a trade and it's something you're doing regularly, again, you're looking at 19% tax compared to 40%. Yeah, there are taxes when you take the money out of the company. But again, there are tax efficient ways in which to do that, which your accountant will advise you on based on your specific circumstance. Just really simple things like you might have someone doing it and then their wife's at home as a housewife. Well, you could include her as an employee of the company doing your secretarial work. So suddenly you've got more money being released from the company as her salary, using her personal allowance, which is just sitting there going to waste. So little things like that are very common tactics that all accountants advise. But with the Section 24, Serkan, that you touched on, so the Section 24, as you all know, is the new, what they called the tenant tax when it was introduced a couple of years ago. So where they're not letting you use as much of your interest as a cost against your rental income, that doesn't apply to limited companies. So that was another attractive aspect of investing via a limited company, so you can claim all the interest back as an expense.
Yeah, and I think that's what attracted the new boom in terms of mortgages lending more, because they saw that it was a big demand where landlords were putting their portfolios into a limited company. Is that the case? Would you say that's the case?
I think it was
Yeah.
more like people had no choice really, because if you wasn't putting it in a limited company, you wasn't really going to be making any money because of how they were going to start taxing you.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
So my advice is, as you heard what I said, if you are one of those landlords and you're watching and it's all in your name and you want to be efficient, get a very good accountant who can advise you. And obviously, yeah. So thank you very much. And everyone's personal circumstances are definitely very different. So it's all very specific to you. These are just general bits and pieces. Should we move on to the next question, or anyone want to touch on anything?
Mustafa Cingöz.
Okay. Bir sorum daha var. 200.000 liralık bir evin depoziti ne kadar olur? Yardımcı olabilirsiniz. Sevinirim. Eray, what would you say
minimum? Yeah, I mean, minimum would be if it's for residential purposes, 10%. So in this scenario, it would be £20,000.
10% in today's climate with COVID, or has it always been 10%?
Well, there's less lenders doing 10% now, but they will open back up. It was restricted during COVID to 15% minimum, but there are still lenders that are doing 10% currently, and the rest of them will follow and open back up. So yeah, minimum 10%.
So 20.000 sterlin, that's £20,000 roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, £20,000. Tuner says, thank you guys for doing a good job. Thank you, Tuner. Thank you guys from Musti Çaylos, another admin. Really informative information. Mazlum Yitçe, Serkan sor bakalım depozitler şimdi yüzde kaçtır? Hastalıktan dolayı önce %30 muydu? %30 mu? So just going back to that. At the moment şu an %10'dur. Biraz çıkış olmuş. %15, %20'ye çıkmış. Eray, is that true? Is it gone up to 20%?
Yeah, on residentials, yeah.
On residentials. But you reckon
yeah,
it will go back down
you'll
go back to 10%.
Yeah.
So şu anki durum 10 ve 30 arası değilim. Is he right?
Yeah,
30?
10 to 15 is a minimum.
Tamam. Şu anki duruma, yani hastalık durumuna göre %10 ve %15'e öyle bir vakıfın içindedir. Ama yani bu hastalık virüs belası biraz kalktığı için Eray Bey'i mortgage advisor'ımız der ki şu an %10'a düşecek, gene de %10'da kalacak. Would you reckon it will go down to 5%? Has it never been 5%? I thought it was 5%.
There are some lenders that do 5% as well, but it's a bit of it's not everybody can get the 5% deposit.
I'll ask a question off this. Sorry, Serkan. So if you're earning £30,000 a year, for example, how much can you borrow?
The general multiple with the lenders, I mean, the best multiple you can get is ×5. So it'll be £30,000 ×5. However, if you have any personal commitments like car finance, personal loan, any other sort of debt, that will reduce the amount you can borrow. Because they will see that as a credit commitment that you've got in the background.
What's bare minimum? Would you say 4.75 at the moment? Is that sort of the average?
Yeah, that's the average. But there are a few lenders that are doing the 5s as well. So, yeah.
Really? At the moment, in today's current climate?
Yeah.
Wow.
In terms of buy-to-lets, what are the deposits required on that as well?
So if it's your first buy-to-let, a minimum deposit is 20%. Once you already own a buy-to-let, you can put 15%. However, the interest rate is higher, so it's brackets. So you put 25% is the ideal. You'll get a very good interest rate. The minute you jump to a 20% and then 15% deposit, the interest rate will start to increase for each section.
Thank you.
Right. Good answer. Seval, what was you going to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say that sometimes, people hear about these fantastically low deposits that they can put down, but what they don't realize is that their income multiple isn't then going to fit into the calculation. So like Hassan said, if you're on 30,000 and even if you manage to get the 5 multiple, so 150K, then, what property are you going to find for kind of 160, 170,000 out there? And that's where you become unstuck. So your income has to also fit into that to enable you to get that mortgage. And where Eray was saying that sometimes they do still offer the 5 times, what I found is when you're like in a certain profession, like a doctor or a police officer, you know, these kind of classic and solid, reliable professions, they like to lend the 5 times to those. Have you found that?
Not really, to be honest with you. I haven't really seen that, because that would be, you know, a bit of discrimination there. But I mean, there's a few lenders. I mean, Santander is a prime example. I always like to use Santander in terms of multiple income, because they always lend the most money. So that's something that people compare in mind. They always give 5 times their income.
I think it's harder if you're self-employed, though, on the earning side of things as well. So that's one thing. I think your income is very, very important with getting mortgages.
100%.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
100%. And it's all about affordability calculators as well. It's not just about how much you earn, it's about if you can afford to pay the mortgage back. From what I found.
That's right, but you know, the funny thing, just touching on what Chanel just said, she said, you know, being self-employed, I mean, what a lot of people do when they're self-employed is they want to pay minimal tax, so they take minimal wages. Whether we should be having a discussion now live or not, but they take minimal wages. So when they want to go and buy a property, they're not showing they earn enough money.
Yeah.
They're earning £8,000-9,000 a year.
Yeah.
What do you mean as a salary through their own limited company?
No, not necessarily because obviously with a limited company, you can take dividends, right?
You can take dividends, but also lenders will now look at the profits that you leave in the company. So as long as you can show that your company is profitable, but you may have chosen to take a low salary or take a very small dividend or no dividend, they will then look at your company. You don't have to take the profit out as a dividend. You can leave it there. It's always yours, but you can take it when you want to. You don't have to take it every year.
And I'm assuming for people that choose not to take it, they don't have to pay tax on that money, or is that wrong?
Yeah, exactly. So say if your company's made a profit of £30,000 that year, the second you take all of that as a dividend, you're going to pay tax. If you don't need to take it, why would you? Leave it there, or take just 5,000, or take just the 2,000, which is the tax-free dividend, because maybe you've got other streams of income, or you've got a very low mortgage, or your partner's earning enough, or for whatever reason, you may not need to take the money out of the company. But as long as you can show that the company's got the money, and because you're the shareholder there, they know that essentially if you wanted to, you could tap into it. They are starting to lend based on that as well.
Oh, that's good stuff.
That's great advice. Absolutely
Where are we
great
going
advice. We have got, let's read out Tuna Ahmed's comment. Thank you, Eddie Meto, and the rest of the team for these kind of shows. All doing a good job. You're welcome, Tuna Kardashian, no problem at all. Savet says, if you don't buy using a limited company, you'll be liable to pay tax on all income. That's what Section 24 is making people do. Yes, exactly. Make sure you Google Section 24. And just remember, guys, whatever information we're giving you is general and it's not based on your personal circumstances, because we'll never know what those are. Sheriff Agu says, is it worth buying a property in a trust for inheritance tax planning? Oh, Sheriff out there. Hello. So out there, I think.
That's very, very specialist advice. We could go on for hours about that. Trusts are a very tax efficient way, especially for long-term inheritance tax planning. They can also be a very good vehicle, if used properly, to get certain personal expenses kind of passed through as well. So yes, it can be done.
Okay, we'll leave that there. Thank you very much. Great question.
Go into.
Yeah. Emin Atla says, Emin Osman, great admin team. That's why Hassan's smiling. We love you, Emin Atla. You did a great job. If you take out a fixed mortgage for 5 years, for example, can you make higher monthly payments in order to clear sooner, or are there penalties if you repay faster?
Well, with that one, once you're in a fixed period, you know, if you break that fixed period, you do pay a penalty, and in some cases, if you're making overpayments. However, if that's something that you want as part of your mortgage deal, it's best to tell your advisor, this is what I want, because there are lenders that allow you to make up to 10% repayments every year. So every year you're allowed 10% overpayment, but anything more than that, you would be paying a penalty, yeah.
Yeah, so it depends on the lender. Okay, great advice. Thank you, Adai. Sherifa Gul says, I have a colleague that has bought buy-to-let properties in trusts and she draws expenses from it to pay school fees, etc. Okay,
Is that
interesting.
fine?
I'll look into that. Huh?
I'll tell you
What was
that's
that,
fine
Hus?
to do, right?
Yeah, well, don't know.
Obviously.
Okay,
Anything
thank
on
you.
that, Sevalabla? Because I mean, maybe Sevalabla could elaborate a little bit on this.
Sorry, what was that?
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the BTR properties in trust regarding the question, or?
Yeah, so effectively, like I said before, trusts are deemed to be one of the efficient ways of doing property investment, especially if the intention is to then use that as an inheritance tax planning vehicle. In the meantime, obviously, there are expenses that you can take out of the trust, like for your personal expenses. But it's a very specialist way, and it's not something that is applicable to everyone. Like a trust isn't the right vehicle for everyone to use. It's a very specialized area of tax.
I suppose as we went back to the beginning, it depends on your circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
They're very tax efficient, but they're not as flexible. Once in a trust, it's not easy to get them out.
Okay.
Great advice again.
Much.
Thank you, Sevalabla. Thank you very much. Jen Kemar says, great show. What kind of loan to value rates are available for companies at the moment? Who would be able to answer that?
What do you mean by companies? Is that limited company to buy a property, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so what we spoke about earlier, when you buy through a company instead of in your own name, what sort of rates are there available for companies at the moment? From Jen Kemar.
In terms of loan to value, again, it will be the similar thing we spoke about earlier, 20% as a minimum. Rates, you'll be looking at, the late twos and early threes they'll be starting from. Generally speaking, the average is, looking at early threes, 3.21, 3.49 for limited company buy-to-let rates.
And I think, Jen, I'm not sure if you mean for buy-to-let or for I don't think you can buy to live through a company. Is that correct?
There would be no point of that now.
Exactly. So yeah. So I just want to make sure that's clarified for you. Musti Chayla says, "Will I have to pay a mortgage indemnity premium? And if so, how much will this be?" So mortgage indemnities, how much will they be? So
Depends
the premium
on scenario, Rudy. What do you mean by that? I don't understand the question.
No, I've not heard of a mortgage indemnity before.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've come across.
Yeah, I think it needs a premium on the mortgage indemnity. If you clarify, we'll try and answer it for you for sure. We'll move on to the next one if that's okay. Buddish says, "It's me again. You're always welcome, Buddish. So at the point of changing my residential mortgage to a buy-to-let, and bearing in mind that I will not have any other mortgages moving into an already paid house, how easy is it to also move it in the name of a limited company?" Gunduzbe, would you be able to answer that in terms of, have you got clients where they're trying to move their portfolio into, I think it means what we spoke about earlier, where you move your private portfolio into a limited company? Would you have to sort of sell your own house back to yourself? And do you pay stamp duty? And how does that all work?
We've got a lot of clients at the moment actually that are transferring properties from their individual name to the limited company for the reason that Sevalabla spoke about before, mainly for tax purposes. Once the structure has been agreed with the accountants, it's quite easy to do that in terms of the solicitor's job. We draft a transfer deed, and that transfers all of the properties in one go. It's called incorporation, and there's no stamp duty on incorporation if it's done correctly. But obviously you'd need to get specialist tax advice from an accountant in that regard. But in terms of stamp duty, there isn't any stamp duty when you come to incorporate from the individual to the company. But I understand that that's got something also to do with the partnership as well. And I think Sevalabla can probably touch on that.
Because a partnership is deemed to be a business, as opposed to if you just invest on the side in your own name, all that you're doing is changing from one business model, i.e. the partnership, into a limited company. And so that avoids the capital gains tax. That's where the incorporation aspect of it comes in. If you work somewhere and you're PAYE, but on the side you have a couple of residential buy-to-lets as an investment, and you now decide because of whatever reason, like maybe the tax efficiency we discussed, to go limited, when you transfer those properties into a limited company, especially if there's a mortgage on them, you are deemed to be selling that property to this new entity, to this limited company. And you, not only will the company incur stamp duty, but there'll be capital gains tax as well. There are ways to avoid that. One is if you're moving the property and there's no mortgage on it, so it has to be completely unencumbered. But the better way to do that would have been to have possibly been a partnership, as I said, like a business vehicle moving to a different business vehicle. When it's from your individual to a company, you've got to be very careful how you do it. They can catch up with you.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well. Yeah, great advice, buddy. So make sure you seek the best possible advice you can based on your personal circumstances as well, for sure. Guys, that's great advice. Hassan, do you want to come in on anything on that before we move to the next one?
No, I'm fine to move on.
Musti's back. He says, is the mortgage portable to another property if I decide to move? Eli?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just depends on the lender. Some lenders allow you to port your mortgage and just some of them don't. So it's just something worth asking your lender to see if they would allow you to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Emin Osman says, in terms of the government's help deposit, so I'm assuming she means the help to buy scheme, would that be? Is this still only relevant for new build properties? Great question.
Yeah, I mean,
it still applies as far as I know. Alright.
Yeah.
What do you think of help to buy? Alright, I know a lot of people. It's not hasn't had great press. What do you?
I mean, I would look. I mean, everybody wants their first house to be the best, the biggest. But I would advise people to just start off smaller. It's better to own 100% of your property than a percentage of it. So I mean, it's still a good scheme. I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything terribly wrong with it. It just depends how you look at things, really.
But you can't go on to Rightmove, for example, and pick any property and then say I want to go on the help to buy.
No.
It has to specifically be on a scheme. So
and
they normally are priced a bit higher as well.
Yeah, they obviously are paying premium value. The house has never been lived in because usually it's all about the new builds. So you do pay a bit of a premium on there as well. Yeah,
I think makes a really good. Yeah, exactly, like buying a new car. You're right, House. That makes a really good point because there's a lot of people out there that in today's climate that can't really afford to buy properly, owning 100% property. If you are buying not the shared ownership, specifically help to buy scheme, if you do buy a property, how does it work at the end? So if you want to say I bought a house, help to buy, it's my first property, and then after 2 years can I transfer that into a buy to let and rent it out? And then, or say, what happens in that scenario first, and what happens in the scenario where I want to sell it on and not buy, put it on buy to let?
I mean, when you're buying for a help to buy scheme, and within London, the government's giving you 40% of the property value. Outside of London, they're giving you 20%. In terms of changing that to a buy to let, I don't think they would be too keen with that because they're giving you this property and this opportunity for you to live in it, not to make money from it. But obviously, if you bought the property and in 2 years' time you decide to sell it, that's perfectly fine. However, you will always be owing 40% of the property unless you start paying it back.
Of what value? Of the property you bought it at, the value?
Of the market
value. So the government is making money on you, and that's sort of their interest. Is it? Okay, so that's sort of their interest, what they've made on you.
Of course. So if you bought for 200k today, and you went to, government gave you 40%, but in 2 years' time you went to sell it at 300k, the government's getting 40% of the 300k. For the first 5 years, you don't actually pay them anything. So that's something to bear in mind. It's only after 5 years that you start paying them back.
Great advice. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Sorry, go on, Huss.
Sorry, just quickly going back to Mr. Chyler's message regarding the indemnity. So he's messaged me privately to see if he can make it clearer. So he's gone mortgage indemnity premiums have in the past been charged whenever the mortgage went above 75% of the value of the property. However, many lenders have now raised their threshold to 90% of the value, so they can be quite large discrepancies from one lender to another. Does that make more sense?
Not to me, no, not really.
Would you like me to read it out again? Or
don't
just
Maybe just read it one last time because it's not coming up, so it's a bit difficult to.
Okay, so mortgage indemnity premiums have in the past been charged whenever a mortgage went over 75% of the value of the property. However, many lenders have now raised their threshold to 90% of the value, so there can be quite a large discrepancies from one lender to another.
Right. I sort of understand it, but I don't know. I wouldn't know how to answer that.
I don't know if
it might apply to more specialist mortgages that are not main street, high street mortgages. But I've not come across any mortgage premiums or indemnity premiums that you have to pay for a mortgage. I mean, when Ero will know, when you take out a mortgage, you might have to pay for an application fee.
Yeah.
And the fee may increase depending on how much you take out. But I don't know if that's specifically what they're asking.
Okay. All right.
Okay, move on to the next one.
The next one is Bohadika says, really good show this week. Will contact details be available for everyone? 100% Bohadika. Yeah, everyone's details will be on, and I'm sure people wouldn't mind getting inboxes, private inboxes, in terms of asking some of you guys to represent them in any shape or form through your businesses. So yeah, we'll definitely get details up 100%. Hassan's the man for that. He's all over it 100%. Savet says the answer to the trust question is yes, 100%. Okay, that's again, everyone's individual circumstances are unique and different. Please get your own advice. I would recommend, but who am I to recommend anything anyway? So if a trust doesn't own a property, you own it. The trust has the rights to the equity. Thank you very much for that input, Savet. That's really good advice.
Is bringing us loads of
good. Yeah. Love it. Everyone's so knowledgeable, so good, and we're helping everyone. And everyone's going to watch this back as well, which is really good. You then borrow the sales or rental proceeds from the trust with wet terms. I'm so lost. For example, you have to pay the trust £1 a year, specialist area, but I do it all the time. Safet, this is way above my grade. I know you guys understand what's going on. I'm the only one that ain't got a clue. But Safet, would you guys agree with Safet? Thumbs up, yeah. Great advice.
Yeah, the pound. I've heard about the pound.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Safet. We need to get him on the show. Yeah. Safet, get in touch with him and we'll get you on the next one. Dervish says, great show. Thank you, Dervish. Bohadika says, great advice, Chanel. Badish Given says, thank you very much once again. And Ferry Suleiman says,
hold on a minute.
Sorry, I'm just going to Badish Given says, thank you very much once again. And Ferry Suleiman, who's watching us on YouTube, hello to YouTube, says, Gunduz, hands up to Gunduz.
Hello.
Yeah. We love Gunduz, man. He's part of our family now. All right, I just wanted to ask, in terms of before we move on to the other property stuff, in terms of businesses, commercial businesses, Turkish Cypriots, 90% of them, I know it's not true, but 90% of them own a dry cleaners, a hairdressers, an ice cream van or whatever. We all own businesses. What would you advise someone? What other help has come out for business owners at the moment, apart from the bounce back loans? What other help can people go for at the moment, and the grants?
Well, obviously, starting right from the beginning, there were the grants that the government handed down to the local authorities, so the 10 and 25k for people who were paying business rates. And then after that, there were the furloughs for the 80% of your salary. Unfortunately, that didn't go as far as helping the directors who, like Hassan said earlier, take a really low salary and top up with dividends, but nothing's been announced for them yet. There's been the self-employment grant as well, which is, again, based on the 80% model, and it's looking at your last 3 years' personal tax return if you're self-employed or in a partnership, and paying you what HMRC work out to be your average monthly income based on those last 3 years declarations you've made. And they made one bulk payment, which has just happened literally about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago maybe, which covered your April, May and June income. And to find out if you're eligible, you had to basically go onto their website and type in your UTR number, your tax reference number, and it would come up with whether you're eligible for that or not. And then there are the finance options. So like you said, there's the bounce back. There's the coronavirus business interruption loan, which is the larger loan, like 50K plus loan. Yeah, these have been the kind of grants and finance options out there.
What would you advise someone that's listening or watching that's not really got a clue in their accountant's not as informative as you are and has not approached them to what would you advise that person? Would you advise them to go onto the government website? How would they be able to look into all this?
I think, like Chanel said, one of the things that has happened during this time is the community has come together in more ways than once. Everyone's kind of discussing all these business options with each other and saying, you know, what did you get? What did you manage to apply for? So even though people haven't maybe been advised by their accountant, or maybe they don't even have an accountant, maybe they've just done their own tax return up to now, there have been ways of just finding out through chatting. I would recommend they speak to an accountant. I would also recommend that they go onto the HMRC page or their local council, because all of these have got COVID-19 business help, kind of frequently asked questions. Or, for example, on our website, we set up a COVID-19 question page, and every time that a new grant or new kind of thing was announced specifically relating to tax or the self-employed or business owners, we would put it on there. So not everything political, just the tax and accounting relevant information. So there is information out there. I would start with HMRC or even the government's own help pages.
Yeah, great advice. Anyone want to come in?
Well, one thing that I would say is that the business world is changing, the property world is changing. So it's important that if you are in the business world, in the property world, then you've got a good set of advisors. I mean, you'd need a good accountant, you'd need good solicitors, and you'd need a good estate agent. Now, no, exactly.
I can't say it, but just mate, yeah. It's in front of you.
The world's changed, the business world's changed, the property's changing, and it's important that we all keep in touch to share our knowledge. I know that some solicitors have adapted better to working remotely. It's a bit difficult to get in touch with some people because the offices are not open, but certain solicitors have adapted really well to working remotely. They've been set up at home and they're working just as well at home as they would have done in the office. So I think it's good to have a good set of advisors in everything that you do.
Okay, well, fantastic advice. I mean, we're going to try and end it in the next sort of 10 minutes, which will give people a very last opportunity to ask any more questions they have while you've got the experts online. And then, Hassan, is there anything you want to cover before we start doing the closing speeches?
No, I mean, I'll be honest with you, everything that I had in my head that I wanted to speak about today has actually been quietly covered, you know, so 100%. There's not really much more for me to touch on, guys. And, you know, I know we're still waiting for any more messages to come through, but I'll turn around and say thank you very much for every single one of you for coming on once again. And I'm pretty sure this has been good advice to everyone watching and everyone that will tune in to watch after, because they will do.
I will say another thing. Sorry, just with landlords especially, is that don't listen to too much of what's going on in the news with rental prices and tenants not paying rent, because I found a lot of landlords were messaging my tenants saying, oh, you don't have to pay the rent, I've got a mortgage holiday. Be careful, because that can then come back and bite you. And there's so many different options now of getting a higher rent. So if you want to increase your revenue in a property, there is so many different channels to go through. So don't be scared. Oh, I'm not going to buy properties because the rents have gone down or people losing their jobs. The market is still very, very strong, and with rental in London, and I think if anything, it's just going to bounce back in a massive way in the next few years. So I would recommend people keep buying.
Is it a good time to buy now,
Yeah.
Chanel, do you reckon? Or do you reckon
I would.
we should wait till sort of Christmas?
I've been doing this for 15 years, and it's never a bad. I opened my office in 2008 when it was a recession, and I went crazy with lets. So that's why I specialize in lets and guaranteed rents to begin with. So when one market goes up, the other one sort of goes down, and that's how it works. The sales might be a bit slower, but lettings is booming. I think everything's really stabilized now, but I think you will never go wrong with buying a property in London, you know, or anywhere in the UK, and compared to anywhere in the world. Whenever people say I'm going to buy here, I'm going to buy there, I'm like, just buy in the UK. You know, it's such a good revenue, and London it's just crazy what the return. People don't even understand. There's a lot of older landlords that have been getting very low rent for so many years as well. Had tenants in their houses for like 10 years, and I do a lot of schemes with a lot of Cypriot landlords that live in Cyprus. So I'll do up their house for them, and I'll give them like a guaranteed rent for like 5 years, and then they've honestly, like, majority of my portfolio emigrated to Cyprus, and they just say, you know, you've done up my house for me. I'll split it up into a HMO, especially in Tottenham and areas like that where they're really booming. And the landlords are really happy. They're shocked at what revenue they could get. So just ask,
it's like a lease
around.
agreement. Yeah, that's good.
That's really we do good. Leases. Yeah, we do leases and guaranteed rents.
If you live in London and you want to buy a property and you want to get it rented, go and see Chanel. Range Homes.
There's a plug. And if you need an accountant, solicitor, or mortgage advisor, you've got to set up Lagoon as an LA.
And LA, yeah.
There you go, mate. This panel could make it all happen. And do you guys, LA, where do you reckon the house prices will be in the next 3 months, in your opinion? Just your opinion.
My opinion, I think it'll be pretty stable to us. There might be a slight decrease for a short period, but it's gonna be booming very soon, I reckon.
Yeah. How about you, Hassan? You said in the beginning of the show there's going to be a 10% decrease. Do you reckon we're at that 10% now, or do you reckon we'll be at that 10%?
I said it was here about 13%. So obviously in Cambridge at the moment, we're noticing that some landlords are looking to try and sell the properties, and they were valued prior COVID, and now they've dropped down. I think some people are too frightened to buy. Some people are too frightened to buy, but then some people, like investors, they're just jumping all over it, and they're like, we'll buy this, we'll buy it. In fact, on Friday, I'm going to show an investor a block that we manage, and they want to purchase this block, which is about £1.5 million. So, you know, people who've got the money are still going to buy it. It was discussed in the programme and all, and I think that will still be the way. And I'll be honest with you, anyone that knows Cambridge, I don't think Cambridge is too far behind London when it comes to prices neither, to be honest with you.
And do you reckon that block will still be? Do you reckon that block will still be worth 1.5 million by Christmas? Do you reckon it'd be more or less, in your opinion, Huss?
I think once it stables out and we've got all this Brexit stuff out of the way and this COVID stuff out of the way, things will start to increase again, especially in Cambridge, especially in London, especially in these sought after places. It's just when you're going up to North, up to Barnsley and places like that. I didn't want to cut you in there, Chanel. I wouldn't really want to buy in Barnsley at the moment, but you know. Places like that, you know, you can buy a whole street.
Apologies to people that live in Barnsley, by the way.
Yeah, no disrespect to anybody, but them kind of places are very, very cheap to buy in. But I mean, you're bigger, like, you know, your Birminghams, your Manchesters, your Londons, and obviously your Cambridge and anything surrounding London is always going to hold its value, I believe. You know, and especially if it's got a train line going straight into London.
Okay.
Yeah, right, again, touching on the commercial. I do think commercial buildings will probably suffer first because the shops have been shut for so many months now. Businesses have been shut. So, I would say commercial is probably going to be a good place to get a good deal in the next upcoming months. A lot of businesses are unfortunately going bankrupt. So tenants can't pay rent. There's going to be a lot of that going on. So, again, that'll go back to leases and stuff like that. How can tenants get out of leases? You might have to do a whole nother program on that because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of businesses struggling to pay their rent.
Do that.
So would you say then there's the risk of having void periods?
Yeah, I think the commercial landlords are going to really suffer with certain businesses, gyms, restaurants, nightclubs, bars. I even think especially central London is actually going to be the biggest impacted with the bigger companies. And I've got someone paying £100,000 a year rent, stuff like that. They can't. They've been shut for 4 months nearly. So, you know, that will probably be. And I do think developments. I know a lot of developers, local developers, and they're still carrying on with the building. If I'm honest, a lot of builders just can't get building materials. But other than that, everything in the new builds is still quite coming along.
That's exactly the same in Cambridge. You know, new buildings are still going up. They're just struggling to get the material for it all at the moment.
It's crazy. That's really good stuff, guys. And Chanel's hitting the nail on the head. I think Gunders is the expert on commercial as well, so we'll get you in. And I'm not gonna. I'll ask you close to the time. We'll get you on for a commercial special because Chanel's correct. I think commercial businesses are going to suffer, especially landlords as well and tenants. So we'll definitely cover that. I'm going to sort of start from the top and then we'll work our way down and sort of end the show. So starting with on my screen, it says Eda. So Eda, if there's anything we want to say before we end the show, if you would want to sort of just explain how people can get in touch with you, your company or whatever you do, and how people can sort of come to you for mortgage advice.
Sure. I mean, my main source is Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram. I've got a Mortgage World UK account. I also got a personal account. You can feel free to message me on there. That's eri.tez. Facebook, I've recently just opened Facebook, but obviously I can still see the messages come through, so you can message me on there. Even though I have no content and hardly any friends on there, but you can still message me, and I'm happy to respond. I want to thank you guys for having me on the show today, and thank the rest of the guys for their brilliant advice as well. Thanks.
You're welcome. And then moving down on my screen, it's down to Gunders.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on. I think it's been really informative. But if anyone's got any further questions or wants to get in touch, feel free to message me or get in touch with the team, and hopefully we can help.
Brilliant. And Chanel, if people want to sort of rent their places out in North London, how can they get hold of you?
That's honestly, even just for any advice, probates and rentals or anything, if anyone's buying anything, they want help with a comparable, I'm happy to help. More than anything, I'm just happy to help anyone that needs any advices. That's enough. So just my Facebook messaging is fine. Oh,
brilliant. Thank you very much, Chanel.
Thank you guys for inviting me. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure. Honestly, really, really good. And Seval, how can people, if they want to appoint you as their accountant, how can people go about doing that?
Well, I guess I'm like Eda, where I'm not that active on Facebook. Obviously, a lot older than all of you, so I'm a bit rusty with all the technology. But email and telephone is fine. I'm happy for you to put my email or contact phone numbers on your Facebook, Serkan and Hassan, if you want to. And just thank you very much for having me on. It's been a really, really informative and interesting evening.
Oh, great. It's been our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Hassan, I'm going to leave the final word to you.
I'd just like to say you don't look any older than any of us on here.
I agree.
Oh, I'm a lot older. I have children already.
I would never believe it. I would never believe it. But look, guys, thank you for every single one of you for coming on. Serkan, thank you for doing this with me as well.
Welcome,
guys,
mate.
Obviously, when we come off this, we've got a messenger. If you guys want to put any details down on there that you want me to pass over to everybody, I can then add it to the bottom of this, and then so people can pick it up, or I've got it for anyone that needs to use it. So just get in touch if anyone needs to get in contact with anybody. Once again, thank you very much. Serkan, you're for the last words, my friend, and thank you for everything.
Guys, thanks for listening. We're going to try and do it again. We'll probably do a commercial business, as Chanel said, a business special. And then we're back on Sunday with the Guzel Magazin show. We've got 7 then Music Grupo. And then we'll get a poll going. We'll try and do some more live music, entertainment, get the mood up a little bit. And just remember, guys, we've got a great panel today. Literally the panel we have, you can buy a house, You can rent it. You can get the accounting done for it all with this panel. So you're very lucky. And I'm sure a lot of people will watch this back tomorrow and the day after, and they'll really learn from it. And if you have any questions, message them to me or Hassan, and we'll get them answered. Thanks for listening, guys. And we'll see you on the next show. Good night. Over to you, Hassan, to push the end the live button.
Yeah, just before I push that end broadcast, Thursday night we have Halil is doing a question time with Hussein Hodja at 6 o'clock on the page. Friday night we've got Dennis Iden. He's doing a live at 7 o'clock. On Saturday we've got Little Lara at 6 o'clock doing a live, and at 8 o'clock we've got Ali Pocher. I always say his name.
Ali Popjuk
doing a live for us at 8 o'clock as well. So make sure you tune in, and Sadikan's told you about their Guzel on
the big
Sunday.
one on Sunday. Definitely.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for being with us. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Good night.
Thank you.